Good morning. Welcome once again to the British Open and National Championships here at Sywell in Northamptonshire. Here we are on the final day, day 4 of the championship, and it's been a fascinating competition so far. Still plenty to play for. 2 of the 4 categories have completed their flying yesterday, but 2 more categories have yet to fly their final sequence. And the first up this morning is Unlimited, with a really tricky sequence full of all sorts of gotchas and complex maneuvers. So we're in for some really top-end flying today. After them will be the Sports, who will complete their 3rd unknown sequence, and that will bring us to the end of the formal competition, leaving us only with the Freestyle, which is scheduled for 2:30 this afternoon. The weather is good. Winds have picked up today, so there's kind of 20 knots in the box or so, which the pilots will have to take account for. In the air now, we have our first Unlimited competitor from Luxembourg, Philippe Varino, in his Cap 232, wooden fuselage, carbon fibre wings, 300 horsepower, highly manoeuvrable plane that's been around for quite a number of years, quarter of a century at least, but hugely capable of flying unlimited aerobatics. Philippe is just getting himself bedded in, finding his position. And he, along with the other competitors today, is flying a sequence he's never seen before. He was handed this sequence yesterday, and he has been planning it on the ground, maneuver by maneuver, what height, what speed, whereabouts in this, in the box, the aerobatic box, does he want to place it, all to be properly judged by the judges who are sitting to my right on the what we call the B-axis, the line that goes all the way through the centre of the box. And the box, the aerobatic box, is a virtual kilometre cube that starts at 100 metres and is a square kilometre. It's marked out on the ground with orange day-glow markers, which are very big when you look at them standing on the ground, but from 3,000 feet they look quite small, but you can see them very clearly, and that marks the performance zone within which each pilot has got to complete all the maneuvers in the sequence with precision. So the verticals have got to be vertical, 45-degree lines have got to be at 45 degrees according to the judges. Now, of course, because of parallax effect, if you do that further away or closer to or higher up or lower down, the angles change, or far to the left or far to the right. So that is something that pilots have to take into account. Now, Philippe is doing the low lines. He is flying the bottom of the box so that the judges know where that is. Pretty impressive. No one else will be flying this low today. So I'm strongly suspecting that is 200-foot bottom of the box. So that is the height below which no one is permitted to fly at Unlimited. If you fly anything close to that, about 200 feet, you will be instantly disqualified. It's a safety measure. But the actual bottom of the box is at 330 feet, 100 meters. Which if you fly that low, you'll get a low penalty, but you can continue flying. It's if you get any lower than that that we would ask you to land. These are very experienced pilots, so no one has got close to that, and I'm assuming no one will, but it's there as a safety check. We've had 4 very good days of flying. The weather today is windier, bright blue skies, high clouds, but windier. Now, the wind poses a particular problem. It's not straight across the box, it has a slight angle away from the judges, so the pilots have to take account of that, because when they get to the top of a manoeuvre, say they're pulling up to a stall turn, going straight up in the sky and then pivoting around and coming back down, the wind will then move them, and at 20 knots that can move you 100 meters at the top. So inside the plane it feels like you're going straight up and then coming straight down, but on the ground it looks like you're traveling 100 meters downwind. So they have to plan for that, so they have to make sure that where they pull up is taking into account that they're going to come back down 100 meters further downwind. So when they head into wind, they will probably take a couple more seconds into wind to keep themselves upwind so that they don't get blown downwind. And the problems happen is when you are flying at 200 knots inverted going downwind, the space in the box disappears very fast, and you don't want to end up at the back end of the box because then it's very difficult within the sequence. The sequence is difficult enough as it is to have to eke your way back into the center of the box where the judges can see you. So more experienced pilots have done it many times, and this is the low line. I'm not a betting man, but I'm saying that's lower than 200 feet. That is a low piece of flying, but nonetheless, below that, no one is permitted to come. So Philippe just flying those low lines so the judges can have that in their mind. And then all the pilots have to fly the same sequence, all the unlimited pilots. They've all been given the same sequence, they all plan it, and then they plan where the box is, what the wind's doing, what this particular figure is doing. Therefore, I need to start it here at this speed and this height, because each figure will some gain height, some lose height, and they have to make sure that they stay at a good height throughout the sequence. These are very high performance planes, so losing height is usually not an option. They can accelerate very fast, and even if they're going slowly, and by slowly I actually mean 100 knots. Sounds fast, but in one of these high performance planes that is not fast. 200 knots is fast. So the speed range goes from about 220 knots, which is probably very close to the top speed when they're in a full dive, all the way to minus 100 knots in a tail slide. If you make a really good tail slide and slide backwards, you can be going back at about 100 miles an hour backwards. So that's nearly a 300 knot speed range. And if you want to convert knots into miles an hour, there's a very technical process you go through. You just add a bit. So 100 knots is about 106 or 7 miles an hour. So Philippe now doing his warm-up manoeuvres. Having done the low lines, he is now warming up. This sequence has a cross-box start, so I would strongly imagine that Philippe is planning to start from behind the judges, because that is where he started this warm-up manoeuvre, and come in as he's just done now and pull up, which each pilot can decide, are they going to come towards the judges or go away from the judges for that first manoeuvre. The very first thing you have to do is a 3/4 flick, so that will dictate which way you have to do that flick. Top pilots need to be able to flick with both feet. Flick left and flick right. Usually pilots are better at flicking left because that's how you learn it. Flicking right is a little bit more tricky, but a good pilot can do both. And flicking in the vertical is a tricky thing. And each flick maneuver has a different entry technique and exit technique to make sure it's on axis and still vertical when you're in the vertical. And obviously you're slowing down through the whole maneuver. They are really very tricky, and they are limited to unlimited, as it were. Only the unlimited pilots do vertical flicks in the vertical going up Vertical coming down a lot easier. Still tricky. So here he is. Philippe Vainot, Unlimited, Let's Fly, Figure 1, Final Unknown, 3/4 flick. Slightly under, but pretty good. And then having enough juice to do 4 half rolls at the top of this P-loop. He's done that nicely, a little bit towards the back side of the loop. And then a 3/4 followed by 1 1/4 roll combination. 3/4, a little bit over, 1 1/4 to inverted, and then pushing straight up into a tail slide. So that's -6G right early on in the sequence. 2 1/8 rolls, and then a canopy down tail slide. So he'll want to fall backwards out of this, having slid backwards. Nicely done. And then a 3/4 negative flick, punching the negative back onto axis. That's correct. And then a Humpty Bump with a little tricky half flick on the way up. So he'll pull up, half positive flick, very quick. He's left it quite a while there, slightly overcooked it, and getting very slow at the top of that as a result. Very slow at the top of that Humpty. Come on, push it round. 1/4 roll on the way down. And is he going to go? He's coming towards, because he's actually mid-box. That's very good. And he'll position himself now for the spin. He has to come back up, 1 1/4 roll to point back towards the left. And then push over the top. And then position himself centrally. Probably wants to go a little bit into wind here to do a 1 1/4 spin followed by a 3/4 roll. So he's giving himself a little bit of room by pushing into wind. The trick here is then to be able to stop the plane, having got it flying. Very slow speed, so the power is off. Just waiting for this to stop without climbing or descending. Very slow speed, getting down to almost 0 knots. And there is a beautiful spin, 1 1/4, and there's a 3/4 roll, and then pulling round. Big loop, plenty of speed at the top to do a 1 1/2 positive flick, followed by a 1 1/2 roll the other way. There's the flick, and then a 1 1/2 roll, 2 in. It's a double roll. It's a double roll. And then a simple Cuban repositioning maneuver. Bit of a rest and relaxation to do a simple maneuver like this, sports maneuver, coming over the top 45-degree line, half roll, and using this to reposition himself, make sure he's in the right spot, he's not too far downwind, going up into a similar Humpty, again to reposition. This is the vacation in the middle of the sequence, these 3 figures, very simple, easy figures. Not that simple. There's a 3/4 on the way down, very good, and then another repositioning roll, Humpty Bump, with a 1/4 on the way up and a 1/4 on the way back up. He's waiting to go far into wind against this strong wind, 1/4 roll, and he's going to come towards with that at the top so he can go away at the bottom. Nicely positioned, just slightly to the left of the judges, so all looking good so far. Pulls up, and then he will turn a 1/4 roll to push off downwind. Now this is a long 45 downwind, it's going to take up a lot of box with a 4-point roll on this long line. So has he left himself enough room in the box? We will find out. Quite steep, 1, 2, 3, 4. Steeper on the 45 when you're going downwind, so back up to the 45 going the other way, and then 3/4 of a roll, and then 3/4 rolls, and then enough for a 3/4 positive flick. There's the positive flick, slightly overcooked that and getting quite steep. That's a very tricky figure. Pulling off inverted, he's going to now give himself, get the aircraft to speed up, and there is a negative flick, full negative flick, slightly off axis at the end, but he's going to fix that in the half roll that he comes down, and then he's got 2 quarter rolls and then a 1.5 roll back to upright. 2 quarters, 1.5 back to upright, and then he pulls up into a P-loop, and he's quite far to the right now, so he needs to 4/8. He needs to then pull this round with 8-point roll at the top of this. He's getting quite far right, so this is the positioning I'm talking about. The wind is really pushing him off, and he's a little bit off axis, which he will spot and fix now as he pulls back round. And then he's got a 1 3/4 roll followed by 3 quarter rolls. 1 3/4, 3 quarter rolls, 2, 3, 4, and now he will wait to get himself back upwind to do this Humpty Bump repositioning maneuver to set himself up for a square loop. So here he is, quarter roll, he'll come towards, yes, he's going to come towards, get himself a little bit closer to the judges. From where I am, I can see him drifting with the wind, downwind, another quarter roll, and then set himself up for this quite tricky square loop. So he'll go up, and then across the top, from inverted he has to do 2/8 of a roll, and then from knife edge a negative 3/4 flick. So clean line on the way up, he's made that very large, which means he'll have to do the top large. So across he comes, now 2/8 of a roll to knife edge, 1, 2, and now a negative flick, punch. Very good. And then waiting to complete that line. It's a little bit long after. And then pushing down, and now this is a big push out, so he'll come hurtling down here and push out. That is then, he has to then complete the box by making a line across the bottom, inverted, and then half roll, pull up. Very simple half roll pull, no rolls at the top of this half loop, and then an awkward innie outie inverted to inverted 360 roller to really scramble the reins. So the first half of this will be rolling out. Oh, and the second section of that was all roll, but not much. And then the first section he has to now roll in. He has not changed direction. So, unfortunately, I think there are the wing rocks. So Philippe, it's always the gotcha right at the end, the very final figure 14 in this complex, tough sequence. After loads of negative G, he's got this 3/4 roll where the first 2 half rolls were rolling outwards, and then they have to change direction and start rolling inwards. Now, he may not have spotted that on the ground, and he may have practiced it as an all outer roller, or he may simply have forgotten to change directions halfway around because the brain is full. Either way, he has rolled the wrong way on the second half of that rolling, so that final figure will get scored 0. We call it a hard 0, and everybody hates a hard 0 because the score sheet just has the big letters HZ on it rather than a nice number. So Philippe will be annoyed with himself because that's actually a very good sequence. Some very nice flying. He got a little bit pushed over to the right in one of those figures, but brought it back, and actually most of those figures were well positioned in front of the judges, not too far back, not too far left, right. So it was all there. It was just that roller that got away from him. A little bit of off axis in a couple of places, but again, fighting with the wind and low speed, it can be very tricky, especially initiating flicks from inverted and then putting enough of a rudder in at the end to keep them on axis. As Philippe brings his Cap 232 into land on one of the many grass runways here at this excellent airfield, Sywell in Northampton. So that is our first sequence of the day. Philippe has kicked us off nicely, and next up to fly will be our first British competitor, Chris Brook. He'll be lining up and taking off shortly. On the pilot's not using the hard runway today because the wind is quite strong across directly across that runway, so it's too much of a crosswind, and they've chosen one of the triangle of grass runways that Sywell has so that they can take off into wind, which is very much more easy and safe to do. He'll be landing. Well, Philippe landed with a crosswind, but on the grass, and one assumes that the other competitors will be taking off from the grass into wind, but we shall see. So that's the end of the competition for Philippe Varinot. He's done 4 full sequences, the known sequence and 3 unknown sequences that he's seen for the first time at this contest, and his scores will go into the system. We have they are checked and then rechecked and then triple checked, and then when all the scores are in, there is some statistical analysis to take out any anomalous scores, because the scoring is all done by eye by a team of 6 judges, or 6 judging teams. Each judging team has 2 or 3 people, so there's quite a lot of paperwork and analysis that goes in to make sure these scores are right. And if the pilot disagrees with some of the scores, there is a process for contesting a score, and everything is videoed, not just on this live stream, but with a separate specific judging video, so they can be reviewed. The flights can be reviewed to see what actually went on, and that 2 or 3 times a day we have that process. Just a little brief pause as a Diamond twin taxiing down the runway. One assumes to take off. Local pilots are permitted to take off and land if they stay well below the aerobatic box, and talk to air traffic control, who have command of the skies above Sywell, to make sure everyone is safely aware of everyone else and keeping well out of each other's way. That looks more like a taxi run to either check the brakes or some other mechanical feature, or to reposition the aircraft in some way. But twin definitely not part of the aerobatic contest. So only 2 categories left to fly today. Advanced and intermediate managed to do all 3 of their unknown sequences yesterday and Thursday, so they're complete, and it is the unlimited and sports pilots who have their final sequence to fly today. So here is that twin taking off towards us as the wind has turned and is blowing away from us. Very calm and measured experience compared to the roar of the aerobatic Lycomings in their tightly cowled, mostly carbon fibre housings that we have on these aerobatic planes. And there taking off is our next competitor, Chris Brook, in his Extra 330 SC. It is also my Extra 330 SC, so take good care of it, Chris. Chris and I have had that aircraft for 10 years now. It is the aircraft of choice for top aerobatic pilots across the world. And Chris is just going to climb to altitude and begin his checks before he attempts this quite busy and tricky sequence. 4 very complex, busy figures. First 4 figures, and then a little bit of a vacation with 3 repositioning figures in a row, and then a very tricky down banana. And then it gets tricky again with an 8-point roll on top of a P-loop, square loop, and that fiendish rolling circle inverted to inverted 360 with a change of direction of the roll halfway around. So the pilots have to, from inverted, do a 90-degree turn whilst rolling the aircraft 180 degrees one way, half roll, one way, and then continue the turn in the same direction whilst rolling the other way. And at each half roll of the airplane, they have to do a 90-degree turn. It is a very complicated piece of coordination to make sure that they don't climb or descend, they don't flick, which can happen if you add too much rudder. And you need to have your cardinal points pointed out. Every 90 degrees you know what you need to be heading. It really is about looking out of the cockpit at the ground. So Chris comes in from behind the judges to do his warm-up maneuvers. He's very much at the front of the box. That would suggest he too is going to come in from behind the judges to begin this sequence with this kind of cross-box start. My thought would be that's just a little bit too close to begin. He's right at the very front of the box, if not in front of the box, so he will have seen that. One of the things the pilots do for these warm-up maneuvers is as they come over them and they look down, they see where they are, and then they can adjust for when they actually fly in. So he will have seen that he was ahead of the front of the box, so he'll know to pull up a little bit later. We shall see if that's what he does. Chris is a very experienced unlimited pilot, current unlimited champion, British Unlimited champion, and member of the British Unlimited team. Not been having the best week with his scores, a couple of issues, previous sequences, but we're hoping he can pull it out of the bag today and give us a clean sheet. And here he comes, wing rocks, and this is Chris Brook, Unlimited, sequence Unlimited Unknown 3. Let's fly, figure 1, pulling up, slightly deeper, 3/4 flick, very nicely done, and then pulling over for this P-loop with 4 half rolls, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then pulling round, angling himself a little bit into the box, and then there's a 3/4 and then a 1 1/4 roll, 3/4 roll, 1 1/4 to inverted, and then pushing straight up into the tail slide with 2/8 of a roll on the way in. 1 of those, 2 of those, and now a tail slide with the canopy down, so he'll want to be falling away with the canopy away from us. There we go, very nice. And then a 3/4 neg flick, punch it, there it is. Big negative G, pulling out, and then straight into a Humpty Bump with a tricky half flick on the way up, pulling up right in front of the judge, giving us up a little bit of space as a half flick, pos half, there it is. And then having enough speed to push over the top, getting a little bit slow, just as Philippe did over the top there. 1/4 roll, one would assume away. He's coming towards. Pulling up, nice and tight, very good, stay in the box. 1 1/4 roll to set himself up for the spin, pushing over at the top here, and then he'll be doing a 1 1/4 spin with a 3/4 roll after it. So just gonna push himself a little bit further into wind before he does that. Here's the spin right in front of the judges. And then a 3/4 roll, and then pulling out and round, keeping the speed up, pulling hard for a 1 1/2 flick at the top here, followed by a double roll. There's the 1 1/2, and and then the double roll the other way without dipping the nose. Very good. And now, get your sunglasses out, Chris. Vacation time. 3 easy figures. Cuban just to relax and reposition and make sure you don't get too far downwind. But they have to be flown accurately. They may be easy, but they have to be flown accurately. Nice long line. That's a very long line before that. He's decided to come all the way down and then straight up into a Cuban with 2 quarter rolls in opposition, pulling over the top, and 3 quarter rolls on the way down. 1, 2, 3. Very nice and clean, those figures. Now he can push himself back into wind, get a little bit more box under his belt, and then go up into another repositioning Humpty to push himself into the right position for the next serious figure. So this is a quarter. He will do that away. Interesting, which means that he will be bringing the figure towards. So he'll do a small radius at the top here and then quite a big radius at the bottom here, coming towards. Interesting strategy. Let's put this figure close. So there he is, right at the front of the box. He'll do another quarter roll, and then he's going to go downwind as it takes a lot of box. There's a 4-point roll on this long 45-degree line, and he'll want to get a lot of speed on this 45-degree line. 3, 4, a lot of speed, and pull back round because he's got a busy inverted climbing 45. He has 3 quarter rolls to knife edge, followed by a 3/4 flick. There's the third, there's the flick. Nicely done. Hold that line and then cap off inverted. Drive it into wind before he does, from inverted, a full neg flick, which is a punch, -6 punch. Somewhere around now. There it is, the punch. Very nicely done, and pulls down into half loop, at the bottom of which he just does 2 quarter rolls and a 1.5 roll to get him back to erect. Very good. And now into a complex P loop, 4 of 8. This is a busy sequence. 4, and then pulling around with 8-point roll at the top. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Nicely done. Pulls round, 1 3/4 roll followed by 3 quarter rolls. Another awkward roll sequence. 1 3/4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Very good. And then a repositioning Humpty, just straight up quarter roll. Is he going to go away or come towards again? He's going to come towards again. He's keeping it close. That is his plan. Tight radius at the top of this, and another quarter roll to set himself up for the square loop. The positioning is really good here, so he can come down and he's given himself room to do this tricky right up in front of the judges. He goes straight up and then across the top of this inverted. He does a 2/8 roll and then a 3/4 neg flick from knife edge. Beautifully done. Chris is flying well today, and then pushes it down, dead straight line on the way down, pushes out -7G. Whoa. Hold that line and then half roll, pull up, simple half loop up to set himself up for this complex roller. Can he make the roller work? The innie outie roller, so he's got to make a 90-degree turn every time he rolls the plane by does a half roll. So he's just waiting into wind, and then it starts outer. He'll be going away. There's that first sector, nicely done. Then there's a second sector. He's pushing hard. Now he needs to change direction. There he has changed direction. This is looking good. Another perfectly on 90. Pull it round for the last sector. And that's a very good roller there from Chris Brook. An excellent sequence. Very good flying there from Chris. Really good positioning. Clearly a very well planned sequence. Kept it close, kept it upwind, didn't get lost down into what the French calls the black hole at the downwind end of the box. kept it close, kept it on axis. Some very good flying there. I really hope the judges give him some good scores for that, because that was a good sequence. And that tricky roller at the end there, very well executed. Inside, outside, inverted to inverted 360 at 90 degrees per half roll. Some great flying there from Chris Brook in his 330 SC. So our next competitor we are awaiting is our second from Luxembourg, representing Luxembourg, which is Cyril Talon. As Chris gently cools the cylinders and positions himself to land on the grass runway into wind. He'll be pleased with that. Chris has had a couple of issues with a couple of figures not going according to plan in the previous sequences, so really great that he pulled it out of the bag and showed us what a great unlimited competitor he is. Able to fly really a very tricky, complex sequence, 14 tough figures, and put in a good performance. So let's hope the judges are as equally impressed. We shall see. And the wind sort of changing from being across the box to off judge, away from where we are. So pilots not only having to think about left to right, but also front to back, making sure I'm sure that's why Chris was always coming towards in his choice of directions to counteract the wind that was gently pushing him away from the judges, and it worked very well. So here taking off in his extra 330 SC is Cyril Talon, climbing steeply up into the box. To see what he can make of this tricky final unknown in the unlimited contest. He's been flying well this week, got some good scores, leading after 3 sequences, but they're all good pilots in unlimited. There's a whole bunch of them all scoring well, so it's still all to play for. This final sequence is going to be the decider. As Cyril dives in from behind the judges to do his safety figures, and like Chris, he's pulling up just at the very front of the box, which I suggest is where he will place his first figure. So he'll come off that long vertical line, and he'll see where he's ended up compared to where he thinks he should end up, and from that he will judge the wind. I think he's got it pretty much right. He's right at the front of the box, and his trademark push out likes a bit of negative G to start the day. And very fast, clean half rolls. Check his harnesses are all working well. That inverted push out will check your harnesses very effectively. And now he'll be just getting himself back round to start again from behind the judges. To give us his version of this tricky unknown sequence. We'll see whether he's going to keep it close in, and how he copes with the wind. Can he keep all these tricky slow rolls at the top of these figures on axis? Can he do flicks from knife edge and keep them on axis? There's all sorts of gotchas in this sequence, including what I'm calling the vacation of the three relatively easy figures, 5, 6 and 7, before it then gets complex again. It means that the first 4 figures are very busy and require maximum concentration. So, wing rocks. Here comes Serial, Talon, Unlimited, Unknown Sequence 3, Let's Fly. Figure 1, 3/4 flick. Very nice, all a bit short on the 3/4 flick. He'll have to fix that over the top, where he's got 4 half rolls. He'll see that now. He's very much off axis, but he will see that as he pulls around, and he will change. Oh, he hasn't changed. Oh, he's just spotted it there. 1 1/4. Oh, and that's not gone well. Straight up into the tail slide. Tail slide's in the right position, so he's decided to bin off that first figure. I'm afraid he'll probably hard zero that. Oh, and the tail slide's not gone according to plan. That's gone very much out, and he'll have zeroed that because that was off axis. Well, I don't know what the exact rules are, but he's pulling up, soldiering on. He's in the right place. Half flick, push over the top of this slow, tall Humpty, and he's pulling, so that is zeroed that figure as well. Serial is not on it today. That was a push Humpty, not a pull Humpty. So he's continuing 1 1/4. So this is what happens when the brain is tired after a long contest. So he's now in the middle of the box, punching a little bit further into wind, but it feels like he's zeroed the first 3 figures, which are very, very expensive figures, and there will be no real coming back from that. I might be wrong, but that's what it looks like to me. So he is trying to place this spin a little bit further into wind, which he's doing. It is a 1 1/4 pause and then a 3/4 roll, and then he'll be pulling round, keeping enough speed to do a 1 1/2 flick followed by a double roll. Need the speed to be able to make this accurate. There's the 1 1/2 flick, double roll the other way, a little bit of a pause before the double roll, nice double roll, and then he's into the vacation. So he can calm down now, do these 3 easy figures, get himself where he wants to be, but they still have to be flown accurately. Long line here with a half roll. Pulling up 2 quarter rolls in opposition, one way. That was a half roll, so it is a half roll followed by a quarter roll. Or is that a quarter roll followed by a half roll? It's quite tricky to spot on this diagram. And 3 quarter rolls on the way down, so that was accurately flown. My mistake. Coming over up to the upwind end of the box to do a repositioning quarter double Humpty. There's the quarter. Pulling over the top so that he will come towards, which feels right because he's mid-box at the moment. He needs to come closer into us. He will come into the box, but he's nicely upwind, and then a quarter roll, and then he's got this down banana. So he has a long 45-degree line to fly down with a 4-point roll on it, downwind, so it'll take up a lot of box. So he's got to get on with that 4-point roll. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then pull round, big G here, that's 7 or 8 G, real tight pull, and then 3 quarter rolls, followed by a 3/4 flick from knife edge. There's the 3/4 flick, nicely done. Hold the line, pull off at the top, and then punch it into wind before he does a full neg flick from inverted. There it is, and pulls round maybe a little bit early in the box. Could have waited a couple more beats to position himself further into wind, and then 2 quarter rolls, and then a 1.5 roll back to upright, and then pulling up into a P-loop a little bit right here with an 8-point roll across the top. So 2, 4, 6, 8, and he's quite a long way right. As he comes round, he's then got a 1 3/4 roll followed by 3 quarter rolls. 1 3/4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3. Sorry, it is 3. Beautifully flown, waiting to go into wind, and then another quarter to quarter reposition. He'll come towards, I expect. Yes, he's coming towards. Little half loop over the top there, just to bring himself nicely towards to set himself up for this square loop. Square loop's tricky, has an inverted exit. He's in the right place for it as he goes up, and then he'll pull over the top, and then he'll do 2/8 of a roll, and then from knife edge do a negative 3/4 flick, very nicely done, and then push down, straight vertical down, and then a big push out, -6G, straight in to a half roll, and then pulling up. No rolls at the top of this half loop, setting himself up for this tricky roller, the innie-outie 360 inverted to inverted roller. So waiting to get himself a little bit further into wind, and I'm assuming he will go away from us. There it is, that's the outside roll, 90 for the first sector, 90 for the second sector, swapping roll directions, very good. 90 for the third sector, a little bit of a slowdown, and has got a lot to do for this final sector, and there it is, on axis. So Serial has finished his flying for this contest. He will be disappointed in what happened in those first 3 figures. He got off axis from the very, very first moment. That 3/4 pos flick was a little bit off, a little bit short, which meant that the P-loop across the top was off axis, and then it got very off axis, and then he came round, did the roll combinations, and didn't quite complete the roll combinations. It'll be interesting what the judges make of that, and then went into the tail slide and overcooked the tail slide. So that didn't go well, and then the Humpty figure 3 turned into a pull Humpty when it should have been a push Humpty, so quite possibly zeroed those first 3 figures, so he'll be very annoyed with himself about that. But then, true professional, the rest of the sequence he pulled it together, did some very, very nice flying. Very, very nice flying. So, our next competitor, taking off from the hard runway, is David Thompson in his Cap 232. David's first year flying unlimited, his first national contest unlimited. Hugely experienced pilot at Advanced, part of the British team, done numerous World Championships at Advanced, been the British Advanced national champion a number of times. Very, very good pilot, but the leap up to unlimited is really quite sizable because the catalogue of figures you have to perfect is so much larger than it is advanced. But David flies them well, and this is a complex sequence that he's got to fly. Let's see what he makes of it as he just does his safety maneuvers in a calm, measured way. Will he be diving in towards the judges, which would be into wind, or will he come from behind the judges as the other competitors have? Each pilot can make their own choice. Because it's a 3/4 flick, strongly suggests they will come from behind the judges because it means they can use their left foot, but David is a very good pilot. He might decide to do a right foot 3/4 flick. That's quite a ballsy move for the very first maneuver of the sequence, and we've seen what can happen if that first flick doesn't go according to plan. It can put you off balance and end up zeroing a few figures. So it's a careful decision, and it seems to me that he is heading behind the judges, so he will be playing it a little bit safer, going with his left foot. All planned on the ground overnight last night. Seen many of the unlimited pilots doing that, the dance or the walk as they walk through on the ground, the entire sequence, to get the timing, to know when they're looking left at this particular point. What will I see when I look right? When I come over this Humpty Bump, what will I see? To really go over it and over it and over it so that it becomes muscle memory, so that you don't end up looking at the sequence. So he comes in for his safety maneuver to practice where he's going to start from behind the judges, pulling up as the others have done, right at the front of the box, dead center. Lovely, tall, straight line with a very nice stall turn at the top and a long, dead straight line on the way down. So David will give himself a moment to have a look at the box. There's no time limit on these unlimited sequences, so with some pilots like to get on with it, others like to take their time, check the box, calm down. A few personal words of encouragement or a quick check of the sequence, whatever it is that helps you, or just breathing sometimes. Intense concentration for the next 10 to 14 minutes to get this sequence flown accurately, trying to avoid those dreaded hard zeros. So he'll be lining up behind the judges now, getting himself at the right height, right speed to tip in. The wind really quite strong and off the judges, so pilots having to make sure that they stay close. So making those choices for those repositioning Humpty Bumps that they're going to come towards. And here are the wing rocks. So this is David Thompson, unknown, number 3, unlimited. Let's fly, figure 1. 3/4 flick. Nicely done. Pulling over the top, 4 half rolls. 1, 2, 3, 4. And pulling round, right at the front of the box, a 3/4 roll followed by a 1 1/4 roll to inverted. 3/4, 1 1/4. Nicely done then. pushing up into the tail slide with 2/8 of a roll on the way up. 2/8, and then a canopy down, so he'll want to slide backwards and fall backwards. And there it is, beautifully done, with a 3/4 flick on the way out. Negative punch. There it is, nicely flown. And pulling out into this Humpty Bump. Straight up, keeping it nice and central. Half flick on the way up. Oh, and he's overcooked that to a 3/4 flick. And he's cheating it back. That is a shame. Just pushing it over. Brought it back. Quarter roll towards, yes. And then pulling it up. He's bang on axis. That was a shame. 1 1/4 roll to set himself up for the spin. And there he is, and then he'll push over the top. He might push into wind a little bit, but he is well set up to do the spin. This is a 1 1/4 spin followed by a 3/4 roll. So he will push into wind a little bit just to give himself a little bit of space, and now the power is off, and he will be punching that left foot to go into a 1 1/4 spin to the left. There it is, 3/4 roll the other way. And then tensing those muscles for a big G pull, +7, bit tight, maybe even 8G, pulling over the top, 1 1/4 flick, nicely done, with a double roll the other way, without dipping, very good. And now he's into the vacation. So a nice simple Cuban, just to relax. And now, as he's inverted, you can see where he is. Down 45 with a half roll on it, nice and easy. Just gently, don't take up too much box. And this quite tricky half roll, then quarter roll, half roll, and then quarter roll, and then pull over the top Humpty with 3/4 rolls on the way down. Just slow but nicely controlled over the top. 2, 3, and then back in for another repositioning Humpty, which I'm assuming he will go away for the top and then come towards for the second half. So quarter roll to the right, he'll pull over the top, a nice tight small radius turn at the top, and then a bigger radius when he comes through at the bottom to bring him towards, and he's nicely positioned. He's angling off to give him another 100 meters for this next figure, and then pushing over the top, and then he's got this long 45-degree line with a 4-point roll but going downwind in this strong wind, so he needs to get on with it. There it is, 4-point roll, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then a big pull round. This is like 7 or 8G, really strong pull. Oh, and then 3/4 rolls, and then from knife edge a positive flick. There is the positive flick, 2 inverted, hold the line, running out of energy, caps off, a little bit off axis, but he's fixing it. Get himself some speed before he punches into a full neg flick from inverted, punch up to the sky. Just waiting to get himself better position for this, get some speed, and there it is, nice flick, and then pulling round, cheating it back towards us, sliding the plane nearer to the judges, and then 2/4 rolls, and then 1.5 back to positive. He's aiming in towards us, and now straight up into the P-loop, 4/8. This is tricky, pulling over with an 8-point roll at the top here, so enough speed to do this, rolling to the right so that he can control the aircraft better at slow speed. Hopefully those are all the points. I couldn't count them with the sun. And a 1 3/4 roll followed by 3/4 rolls. Tricky roll combination. There's the 1 3/4. 1, 2, 3, 4. He's messed that up. That is a real shame. Did 1.5 there. Quarter coming towards. That's a real shame. That was looking very good. He did a 1.5 roll. No, he didn't. Yes, he did. Something didn't go right. Coming out, setting himself up for this square loop. He's in exactly the right place. So pulling himself up to the top and then pulling over and then doing 2/8 of a roll from inverted and then a 3/4 neg flick from inverted from knife edge. There it is, to erect, pushing down to make the third side of this square, and then big push -7. Oh, hold that line just briefly, half a roll, and pulling up for this half loop and setting himself up for the roller. He's got room to come towards, but I suspect he'll go away, which is just getting himself lined up for this. This is a 363 inverted to inverted, innie outie. So he's coming towards, he has got the room. So there's the first sector, 90, the second sector, the tricky push sector. There we go, now he changes roll direction and continues a 90-degree push. He's slightly short on that one. He'll have to make it all up on this last pull sector. Oh, he's done about 120 degrees on that one. But he's on axis. And there are the wing rocks. So a very good sequence there from David. Just that roll combination coming out of the P-loop figure 10. Not quite sure what happened, but it looked like the 1 3/4 was a 1.5, and then he was not able to do the 3/4 rolls, and unfortunately that will have zeroed that figure, which is quite a busy high K figure, so he'll be kicking himself for that. But the brain gets full by the time you get to figure 10, and he's already done any number of roll combinations, including the P-loop right at the start, which was the other way round. It was going very well into then some very nice flying, so he really will be annoyed with that. Just 1 millisecond error, doing 1.5 instead of 1 3/4, and then the whole figure is for naught. It's a real shame. I'm sure the judges will have spotted that and will be able to see what happened, but I think that's what happened. So as he cools his cylinders and his head down, he'll be reflecting on that. But he did the right thing, which is to carry on, complete the rest of the sequence, do a very good square loop, and a very good roller. Got a little bit behind on sector 3, made it up on sector 4. And that concludes David Thompson's flying for this contest. The scores will have to tell us how that all adds up as he brings it into land on the hard runway here at Sywell. Very good looking plane, this 232, keeps it in immaculate condition. It might be old and made of wood, but it's a fearsome competitor. So we wait for our next competitor to line up, and there's a little bit of a change in the order. It will be Ekaterina Volkova. The US Unlimited pilot in her 330 SC. She is taking to the skies for her final sequence, and Ekaterina has borrowed this plane from someone in Poland, and so immediately after this sequence she will be strapping in and flying to Poland. The weather is good today and due to be not so good tomorrow, so she's taking advantage and getting over the channel today, and should be able to make it to Poland by this evening, cruising at 160 knots, 170 miles an hour, when the weather's good. It's quite a fun transit to make. So she's been flying well, up in the running. What can she make of this tricky sequence? Very busy first four figures, a little bit of a vacation in the middle, and then back to the trickiness and fight the wind, which feels like it's more off judge than it was earlier. But that is one of the things she will be testing as she does her safety maneuvers, taking the opportunity not just to check the aircraft is operating correctly, but what the wind is doing. So she will come round, I suspect, from behind the judges as well as the others, and pick her starting point and try it out, and then on the way back down see what the wind has done, how it's shifted her front to back, left to right, and then adjust her plan accordingly, or confirm her plan. But all the best planning in the world needs to still have capacity and ability to adjust for what goes on the day at the moment, to fix errors and positioning issues as they arise. Here she comes in for her safety figure, directly above our heads, and just a little bit deeper than the others, but straight up, dead center box, but maybe 100 meters deeper in the box than the other pilots. And as she comes down from this stall turn, she will then see where she is and compare that with where she thought she was going to be, and whether she likes what she sees and whether she needs to adjust her entry strategy. So Katerina has been flying at open contests around Europe this summer to prepare her for the World Aerobatic Championships, known as the WAC, which is taking place in Iowa in the US in September. Last few days of August, first couple of weeks of September. So she's taking full advantage of flying with her European future competitors to get herself fully prepped for that championship as a member of the US Unlimited team. She's been flying well here today, and here she comes with the wing rocks. So Ekaterina Volkova, Unlimited, unknown sequence 3. Let's fly, figure 1. pulling up, 3/4 flick. Nicely done. Pulling over to the top of the P-loop, 4 half rolls. 1, 2, 3, 4. Nicely balanced, and pulling round for this 3/4 followed by 1 1/4 roll combination. 2 inverted. 3/4, 1 1/4, and then pushing up for the tail slide with 2/8 of a roll on the way in. 2/8, and she has elected to go the other way, so she will be sliding down and falling towards us. So she will be needing to do a left foot negative flick now. Punch it. Very nice. Setting herself up for this Humpty Bump. Half flick on the way up. There's the half flick, and keeping enough energy to push over the top. Yes, she's done that well. A little bit short after. Pushing down, 1/4 roll towards, so she's bringing herself closer to the judges to set up for the spin. Pulls up, 1 1/4 roll, so she'll facing back to the left, and then push over for this 1 1/4 spin. She'll probably drive a little bit into wind. No, she's going to go straight into it. 1 1/4, and then a 3/4 roll. Little bit of a gap before the roll. She's pulling around, big G pull, 7 or 8 G there, tight, so she can get enough speed to do the 1 1/2 flick, followed by a double roll. There's the 1 1/2 flick, double roll the other way. Bit of a gap before the double roll, but nicely done. And now she can go on vacation. 3 easier maneuvers, and give her the ability perhaps to move it a little bit closer to the judges. We will see. She's making a very big figure here, drawing a big picture in the sky. Got a half roll on the way down this 45, but enabling herself to put that still in the middle. Half roll followed by a 1/4 roll, and she's going away, interestingly, getting a little bit far from the judges at the back of the box. The wind is pushing her away, and then there's 3 1/4 rolls, nicely spaced, bringing herself back down. And now one would assume she's heading off, bringing herself closer, and she's going to use this next Humpty, getting nicely into wind, 1/4 roll, and the top will go away so that the bottom can come towards. So she's getting herself nicely positioned for this next banana figure, which is downwind. So she will then loop this bottom half of this. She'll come towards, and then a right 1/4 roll to face downwind, push off the top, and then into this down banana, 45-degree down line with 4 1/4 rolls on it. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then a big pull, big pull, lots of G, 7 or 8 G pulling, and then 3 1/4 rolls followed by a 3/4 flick from knife edge. There's the knife edge flick. Very nice, holding that line, very short line after, ran out of energy. Now gaining the energy back, she's heading off slightly more towards us to gain it before she punches into that full neg flick from inverted, which will happen now. And then pulling it down, very nicely flown, half loop down before she does 2 1/4 rolls, and then a 1 1/2 roll back to upright. 2 1/4, 1 1/2 back to upright, and then pulling up into this P loop, 4 of 8, 2, 3, 4, with enough energy, pulling over the top to do an 8-point roll. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Nicely flown for the judges there, and she pulls around. She needs to do a 1 3/4 roll followed by 3 1/4 rolls. Awkward roll combination. 1 3/4, nicely flown. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then pulling up into a Humpty Bumpty reposition. One would assume she's going to come towards. Yes, she is. To set herself up for this square loop. So this is a very good sequence so far from Katerina. Quarter roll there to set herself up for the square loop. So pulling up at the judges. First line and then inverted line, 2/8 of a roll, and then negative 3/4 snap from knife edge. 1, 2, punch it. Very good. Hold it, line, and then push down to do the third line of the square, and then a big push. -6G, push, hold that to complete the square. Very good. And then half roll and half loop up to set herself up for this roller. Will she come towards or go away? She's got room to do both. This is a 360 inverted to inverted innie outie, 90 degrees per sector. Which way is she going to go? So rolling outwards for the first sector. She is coming towards. That's 90. And then 90 again, very nicely done. Then change roll direction. 90. That's good. And then another 90 on that inside. Beautifully flown. Bang on axis. That's the best one we've seen today. 2, 3 wing rocks. An excellent sequence there from Katerina. Well, she's really done a very good job with that. Couple of line lengths could have been better, but really all the major points in that were there. I didn't see any hard zeros. All the roll combinations, flicks, all the lines were there, and all the figures were placed very nicely in front of the judges. Didn't get pushed too far back, gave herself space. Very good sequence, very well flown. So that to me is the sequence to beat from today in the Unlimited, but we'll have to see what the judges make of that. They may have seen things that I've not seen, but it looked very good, very tidy, controlled, well planned, a little bit deeper than some of the others, but all still highly visible from a judging perspective. Particularly that 8-point roll. In the aircraft, it feels like you're spending ages on each point, and yet you're trying to do it over the top of a P-loop, but it has to be visible. The 8 points have to be visible to the judges, who are effectively 1,000 meters away. On the video camera, it all seems pretty clear, but judges are doing it with the naked eye, so it has to be obvious. As Katerina brings her 330SC into the hard runway, which is now pretty much into the wind. The wind has turned to be much more off-judged than across the box. So that brings to a conclusion her contest flying. She will be getting into transit mode, filling the wings for the fuel. No wing fuel allowed when you're flying aerobatics, but 120 litres capacity in the wings of a 330SC, as well as the 110 in the main tanks, the aerobatic tanks. So long legs for an aerobatic aircraft, and that will take her across the channel through Germany. She'll probably have to do one fuel stop, cup of coffee, get herself to Poland by the end of the day. Well done, Katerina. Thank you very much for flying with us. Hope to see you again, and good luck at the WAC. So 2 more competitors to fly this tricky Unlimited sequence. Our next, just taking off, is Barry Eels, flying Sierra Charlie, this blue and silver 330SC. Barry is borrowing. Barry is from South Africa, South African national champion. He is borrowing this SC and flying it very nicely. He flies an SC back in South Africa, and we're very happy to welcome him and give him the opportunity to compete here at Sewell in the Open, and he's making a good job of it. So, like all the other competitors, he will be coming in from behind the judges, so he is setting himself up and coming in for his practice maneuvers from that direction. Pulling up, very similar position to Katerina Volkova, the last pilot. 100 meters further in from where Chris Brook in the same aircraft flew it. Chris Brook flew very well, so let's see if Barry can as well. He will be looking at where he is on the ground compared to where he thought he should be to judge how much the wind is pushing him left or right, forward or back. Feels like the wind is doing both. It's kind of coming from the quarter, so he's got to think about punching into wind for some of the figures, but also using those Humpty Bumps to move himself to back towards the judges, not get too far pushed away, but also not get too close. Very nice rolls there. Just making sure everything's working according to plan, and then positioning himself back up behind the judges to dive in to show us what he can do with this unknown sequence that he hasn't seen before. He's planned it on the ground, worked out where he needs to be, how he should fly each of these tricky maneuvers. Busy sequence for the first 4 maneuvers, a little bit of a vacation, 3 figures, and then back to the busyness. Tricky sequence, lots of gotchas, testing the pilot's ability to both fly and have mental capacity to cope with the inevitable issues that arise during the sequence. So, wing rocks, Barry Eels, Unlimited Unknown number 3, let's fly, figure 1. Pulls up, 3/4 flick. Slightly overcooked there, but not too bad. He can iron it out here, and then these 4 half rolls over the top. Comes steaming in. It's very easy to overcook that first flick. Now, 3/4 roll followed by a 1 1/4 roll. 3/4, a little bit of a gap, 1 1/4 to inverted, and then pushing up straight into this tail slide. 2/8 of a roll on the way in, and then a tail slide with the canopy down, so we want to fall away from us. Nicely flown, and then a negative 3/4 flick, punch it, there's the punch, very good flick, line after, excellent, and then pulling up, next figure into a Humpty Bump with a half flick on the way in, so positioning's good, half flick on the way in, a little bit late on that, so that the line after is a bit short, and a very slow over the top, but keeping control of that top of that line. 1/4 roll towards, so that the bottom of the bigger radius is coming towards to set himself up for the spin. 1 1/4 roll to face towards, yes, facing into wind and pushing off and setting himself up for the spin. A 1 1/4 spin followed by a 3/4 roll. Little bit of travel into wind to give himself a bit of space, and then killing the power and taking it into that 1 1/4 to the right, and then a 3/4 roll to the left. Very good. And then a straight line and a big push at the bottom, sorry, big pull at the bottom, pulling around 7, maybe even 8G. Keep the speed up for a 1 1/2 flick. There it is, followed by a double roll. Very good. And now a little vacation. Pulling up into a nice gentle Cuban. Got to make a nice shape. Use this to get yourself in the right place. You can slide a little bit, you can angle off. It's a simple maneuver. This Humpty Bump with a half roll, then a quarter, a little bit tricky. Half roll, and then a quarter roll. He's going away, pulling over the top, and then 3/4 rolls on the way down. Not really going to tax Barry this one. 2, 3, setting himself up so he can come back, get a bit more into wind, wait, and then pull up for another repositioning, so he will roll to the right to go away at the top. He's gone left. Interesting. This will take him further away. So is that the right choice given the wind? Because then the bottom radius will take him away. He'll be a bit further away. It's not a disaster, just not ideal. And then he needs to roll to the left, and he will be doing this 45-degree line down, long line with a 4-point roll on it. A little bit far away. Probably should have come towards. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then a big pull. 8G pull. Pull it hard, Barry. And then 3/4 rolls, followed by a 3/4 flick from knife. 3/4 rolls. Here's the flick. Oh, that was good. Hold the line, running out of airspeed, and then cap off inverted, and then punch into wind, probably angling a little bit towards the judges. Yes. And then he will punch into a full flick from inverted, full neg flick from inverted once he's got himself further upwind. There's the flick. Nicely done. And then pull down, 2/4 rolls, and then 1 1/2 roll to get back to erect. Little bit of a gap. Oh, little bit of a brain check there. No, that's gone wrong. That has gone wrong. Wing rocks. Wing rocks. No, he is going to pull up and do the P-loop. Should have wing rocked there, Barry. So now he's well outside the box. 8-point roll will be very difficult to score at this angle. So just had a momentary brain blank. Coming back in, 1 3/4 roll. He's still on axis, so that's good. 1 3/4 followed by 3/4 rolls. 1, 2, 3. Now wait, get himself back to the other end of the box before he does this Humpty. And I would suggest coming towards at this point. Pulling up. He's got himself back on, and then a left roll. That's it. And then take the advantage to bring yourself a bit closer. Slightly larger radius, not that massively large, but nonetheless setting himself up for this square loop. So get some speed in the right place to do the square loop. Pulling up at the judges, make a nice line, pull over inverted, 2 of 8 to knife edge, and then a negative flick from knife edge. Negative 3/4. That's very nicely done. And then push down to vertical. A little bit negative, and and then a big push. Oh, minus 7G. Now half roll and pull up. Pull up. No rolls at the top of this half loop, and setting himself up for this 360 inverted to inverted, innie, outie roller. Is he going to go towards or away? He's got room for both. Which way is he going to go? He's going to go away. So he's got to do 90 degrees. The roll stopped there a little bit. Got to keep the roll going smoothly. The second sector, the same thing happened, but he's at least hitting the cardinal points. Change direction, rolling and coming in 90, bit off. He's got a lot to do in this last sector. He's going to pull it round, but then the roll has stopped, and he's not quite on axis. 10 degrees off, and there are the wing rocks. So a lot of that sequence was very, very good from Barry. He just had a brain bubble as he came out of figure 9. So he did the neg flick, came down and round, did 2 quarter rolls, and instead of doing 1.5, he did a single roll, and then wondered why on earth he was where he was. So that then cost him positioning, because then the P-loop was very much at the far end of the box, if not out of the box. So he'll have got a right as far as the judges are concerned for that. But it's amazing this doesn't happen more often. So much going on in this sequence that you, in the middle of it, you roll and you think, is that a full roll? Is that a 1.5 roll? Where am I? What's going on? And it only takes you a second in the plane to work it out, but in that second you have undone a lot of the good work, and your positioning goes to hell, and things can start going wrong. But he then brought it back, correctly flew that P-loop, so it was all there, used the repositioning Humpty Bump to get himself back on track, and did a very nice square loop, and the rest of the sequence. So good effort. For my money, Katerina Volkova is still the sequence to beat in this third unknown. But the judges will tell us what actually happened. As Barry brings my beautiful plane into land. Thank you, Barry, for not breaking it. Smoothly taxiing back to the hangar. Back to the hangar for a cold one, eh, Barry? That's Barry's contest flying done. So we only have one competitor left at Unlimited. Final sequence, final pilot at Unlimited. And that is our final British pilot, Steve Bakhtiari. Flying his XA41. Single seat, all carbon fibre Wunderstunde. Designed by Philipp Steinbach, who then went on to design the Gamebird, 2-seat unlimited capable machine. So here is Steve in his fearsome machine. What can he make of this tricky sequence at Unlimited? We've seen pilots get caught out by a simple over rotation of a flick, can throw off a whole complex figure. Being a quarter roll out can throw off your positioning. Lots and lots to get wrong, but super satisfying to get right. And Steve has been flying very well this year. First year at Unlimited. The current advanced champion from last year. Now moving at Unlimited and flying very well and very consistently in this contest. Really commands this tremendously capable aircraft. So, as he does his safety checks and maneuvers, strongly suspect he will also be entering the box from behind the judges. We'll get a clue of that towards that from his safety, his warm-up maneuver. Having done the safety checks, he'll do his warm-up maneuver, get the G muscles warmed up. Steve will also be flying freestyle this afternoon. He's a very good freestyle pilot, doing a lot of display flying this year, various air shows if you're lucky to catch him. We'll see a bit of that this afternoon. So yes, as suspected, he is lining up behind the judges to come in and do his warm-up figure. A little bit further to the right and right at the very front of the box. So when he comes over the top, he will see exactly where he is and can adjust it if he feels necessary. So he'll stall turn. You can now see where he is. I would say slightly to the right of the center line and really quite close, if not in front of the box. So he can then make any adjustments he sees fit for when he dives in next to start the sequence. Got to be careful not to go too fast for this first figure, although the flick limiting speed in an XA41 is much higher than it is in an SC. Here are the wing rocks. So, Steve Bakhtiari, Unlimited, Unknown 3. Let's fly. Figure 1. Pulling up. Show center. 3/4 flick. Nicely done. Little bobble. Pulling over the top. 4 half rolls. 1, 2, 3, 4. Nicely balanced. Pulling around. 3/4 roll followed by a 1 1/4 roll. 3/4, 1 1/4 to inverted, pushing up into this tail slide with 2 of 8 on the way in, 2 of 8, and this is a canopy down tail slide, so he'll be wanting to fall away from us as the plane slides backwards. Very nicely done. And now punching into 3/4 neg flick. There it is. Pulling out and then pulling straight up into this double humpty with a half flick on the way in. There's the half flick, holding the speed. That's a very nicely balanced line. And very slow over the top, but nicely controlled. Pulling it down, 1/4 roll away. Interesting. And then pulling up, a 1 1/4 roll. So unlike the other competitors, he's elected to put the spin a little bit further back. He's going to push over the top and do this 1 1/4 turn spin followed by a 3/4 roll. He's going to punch into wind a little bit, give himself a little bit more space to do this, and then off comes the power. Wait for the airspeed to decay, and there he goes into this 1 1/4 spin, ending up towards, and then 3/4 right rotation, and then a big pull, 8G pull Really pull hard. Whoa. And then a 1.5 flick off the top, a little bit lower than the others. 1.5 flick, and then a double roll, a little bit off axis, but he can iron that out in the vacation that he's about to take with these next 3 figures. So he's going into wind and then ironing it out so that magically he appears bang on axis as he comes over the top of this figure. Good lesson for pilots in the lower categories about how to do that. Comes out and straight up into this half roll and then quarter roll on the way into this Humpty quarter roll, and this one he's chosen to pull towards, and he's already right at the front of the box. So a little bit tricky on the positioning, very close 3/4 rolls, but not a problem. Angling off slightly back into the swing of things. Nicely positioned again for this Humpty. He's going to go away. That's very good on the spot thinking. So this first sector will bring him right to the front of the box, but then the second sector will move him away a little bit. So that's correctly chosen. And he'll be bang in the golden zone for this one, and nicely positioned. Go up, quarter roll, and then he'll push off and do this down banana. So he's got to push down and do 4 quarter rolls, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then pull round, big pull, 8G pull it tight, keep the speed up, and then 3 quarter rolls followed by a 3/4 flick from knife edge. There he goes. There's the 3/4 flick. Hold the line, little bit off axis, pushing towards, iron that out, a little bit of right rudder to iron that out. No, that didn't go according to plan. So somehow he ended up upright at the end of that banana. Couldn't see it from here. The top of his aircraft looks very similar to the bottom of his aircraft. It's one of the reasons other pilots have different paint schemes on the bottom, so you can tell which way it is. Very hard to on his aircraft. So something went wrong with that flick. He might have over-rotated it and ended up, instead of ending up inverted, he ended up upright, or he went the wrong way. And then he realized that, did a half roll, or he was the correct way up. It's very hard to tell. I cannot tell. You may have seen it on the video. I could not tell which way up he was, but he did a half roll and wing rock. So it could have been a positioning issue, but the half roll will get scored as an insertion. Maybe he felt he was in the wrong place, off axis. I have to watch back on the video to see what happened there, but something happened. So he is now repositioning to do figure 6. No, he's going to reposition to do something else. What's he going to do? Oh, he's going to do figure 4 again. He wants to get it right. Won't be scored, this. Pull it back round. 3 quarter rolls. 1, 2, 3. 3/4 flick to inverted. Pull over. Wait for it. And then punch full negative flick. Pull round. Very good. So that was what should have happened. Now, 2 of 4, 2 quarter rolls, followed by a 1.5 roll to upright. Very nice. And then pulling up into this P-loop, 4/8 of a roll, 2, 3, 4, and then pull over the top, 8-point roll, nicely positioned. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Nicely done. Pulling round, and then 1 3/4, followed by 3 quarter rolls. 1 3/4, 1, 2, 3. Very good. And then waiting, and then pulling himself up into this Humpty. Quarter roll on the way up. Comes towards, but only slightly. And set himself up for the square loop. So he's in the right place. So a little bit of a long line after, but he'll then come and then straight up into this square loop right at the judges. Very nice. Nicely positioned. And then inverted line with 2/8 of a roll, and then a negative flick from knife edge. Negative flick, negative 3/4, beautifully done. And then push down, dead straight line, and then a big push. Oh, -7G. A little bit of a wobble, and then half roll, clean loop up, nothing at the top of this. Setting himself up for this tricky roller. So this is a 360 inverted to inverted innie outie roller. So every half roll he has to do 90. Is he going to come towards or go away? He's going to go away. So inside roller 90, inside roller 90, a little bit short, outside roller 90, very short. He's got a lot to do on this last sector. Oh, he's not going to make it all the way around. No, he makes it 30-40 degrees short. Yeah, he lost it on the third sector there, and there's only so much you can do in those rollers. So that was going very well up until that figure 4, that down banana. Something went wrong at the top of that down banana. He got out of position. Something about the Humpty, went the wrong way on the Humpty, went away on the Humpty, and ended up in the back corner of the box. Not comfortable that he was in the right place, because that would then disturb the rest of the sequence. So he did a wing rock, but he did a half roll before the wing rock, which might be problematic, and repositioned himself, and then did figure 8 very nicely, beautifully positioned, and then the rest of the sequence went very well up until the roller, the final sector of the final figure of the final sequence. Didn't quite go according to plan, but very good flying this week from Steve as he brings his XA41 into land. Landings always wobble a bit after a sequence like that. Sweat pouring off. Be glad of a good glug of water, rehydration salts after that. It's very busy and hot up there on a day like today doing a sequence like that. Good flying from Mr. Bakhtiari overall. First season at Unlimited, very impressive. So that brings to a conclusion the Unlimited flying. So we will be continuing with the sports final unknown in a few moments. So, here we go again. Just taken off is Barbara Blythe in her Extra 330LX, our first competitor for this final sequence for the final category. This is the sports third unknown sequence. So they've flown a known sequence that they've practiced beforehand, and then this is then 3 sequences, of which this is the third, where they've been given that sequence just the day before to prepare and learn on the ground, and now they have to come up and fly it for the first time. Barbara took up aerobatics later in life, post-COVID, towards the end of COVID. Her husband bought her a flying lesson and she has not looked back, and is thoroughly enjoying the opportunity to explore freedom in 3 dimensions, flying this Extra 330LX of the British Aerobatic Academy, run by Adrian Willis, great supporter of aerobatics. And she's been flying well. Few issues in certain sequences, just as everybody else has had. But she's getting to grips with sports level and aerobatic contest flying. It really does give you a great command of the aircraft in 3 dimensions to be able to perform these maneuvers to the precision required within this kilometre cube over the airfield, and combat the wind, of which there is a fair amount today, and check and change for mistakes, be aware of where you are in comparison to the ground, and have full command of your aircraft and do it all safely. So that is what she's learning. She's just doing the low lines, showing the judges where the bottom of the box is. So she'll be doing one at 1,000 feet, which is the bottom of the box for sports, and then one at 660 feet, which will be the disqualification height. So the sports pilots not to fly below 1,000 feet for safety reasons, and if any of them are seen flying lower than that, they get a penalty, but if any of them are seen flying at 660 or lower, then they are instantly disqualified, no questions asked. It's a sensible safety precaution to make sure everyone is safe and happy flying their aircraft. Flying in this contest has been very high quality. Inevitable issues with figures not going according to plan, flying the wrong figures the wrong way, and so forth, but nothing unsafe. And we spend a lot of time and effort in the Aerobatics Association, British Aerobatics, making sure that remains the case. And regular safety reviews, strict process of evaluation before you're allowed to fly at a certain level, coaches, and many other aspects. Keep the sport safe and fun for everyone. Now this sequence has got a number of interesting factors. 45-degree lines, a 1 1/4 spin in figure 3. Quite a tricky thing to do, to get the aircraft to stop right where you want it to, enter the auto rotation of the spin and come out exactly 1 1/4. 270 competition turn, Humpty Bump, stall turn, 4-point roll. Plenty to get your teeth into. Barbara, having done the low lines, will now most likely do her safety figures. So she comes diving in. She will be doing a warm-up figure. This 330LX has got plenty of vertical performance, so not an issue. Some of the other planes do struggle with gaining and maintaining altitude, but not the 330LX, 6-cylinder, 315 horsepower, quite capable of pulling 2 people around this sequence, as it's a 2-seat aircraft. So this could be Barbara's run-in to start the contest. If it is, she will do some wing rocks, but we will see. There's a wing rock. And another, and a little dive. So this is Barbara Blythe. Sports Unknown 3. Let's fly. Figure 1. 45 up, half roll, very nice. Pulls off the top, vertical down, nice straight line, pulls out, and then up into this goldfish. So an up 45 line, half roll, another very good half roll, holding the line nicely, and then pulling around a nice looping section back up to 45 the other way, to set herself up for the spin. So 45 line needs to cap off at the correct height, the height she has pre-chosen to spin at, and then she needs to close the throttle, so that's a very long line, give herself plenty of height, close the throttle, and then do this 1 1/4 spin. She is going to go left, 1 1/4 to face us. Very nicely done. And then she'll come towards and then smartly go into a half loop up. Very good. With a roll off the top. So a half roll at the top of that. Keeping a little bit off axis, but she's corrected it. straight rather too soon, straight into a 270 turn. Needed a little bit of a line beforehand. Now, half roll with a half loop down. Now, half roll with a half loop down. And actually needs to go into a Humpty straight up. Nice straight line up. Pop over the top with enough speed to make a nice radius at the top, and then dead straight down and then pull out. Now a stall turn. She's positioning this very nicely in the upwind section of the box, straight up, wait until the aircraft is almost stationary and then kick round with the foot, probably to the left. There it is. And then hold the line on the way down. Don't pull out until you, that's a very nice line. That's a very nice stall turn. And now pulling up to the 45, half roll, very good. And then a nice looping section, nice shape. And then a 4-point roll without dipping. 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, that is a very good sequence there from Barbara. The only issue I could spot was that the 270 roll was a little bit rushed. Could have been more steady, but the rest of that was really rather good. So very well flown, Barbara. Please come back. She's heading off into the Northamptonshire countryside to make a nice wide circuit to come back to the airfield. In competitions, it's best to make use of the box. Just make a quick turn, but the other pilots will now have space to take off. But that's a very good sequence by Barbara. Made that look relatively easy. We shall see. Helped by the performance of her aircraft, so not having to worry about energy, but nonetheless that spin is tricky. 1 1/4 spin, because after one turn they start to really wind up, so you need to stop it on axis, which she did. Managed her positioning well, so she kept around the center of the box, didn't get too deep away from the judges, didn't come too close, and didn't get lost and blown downwind. So that's a very good thing for all the other pilots to try and emulate. Keep themselves in the middle to upwind section of the box, because every time they turn downwind they've got an extra 20 knots pushing them every time pushing them further and further. So it can really make a difference. So good flying. Barbara brings the extra back into land on the hard runway by the looks of things. Slightly crabbed approach so that she can see the runway. No, she's landing on the grass. They're very close together, parallel runways. Completely at the pilot's discretion, whichever they feel comfortable with. They're both very good runways. The grass runways here at Sywell are very smooth in comparison to other airfields I could mention. So it's a pleasure to fly from any of their runways. So we await our next competitor, which will be Matt Schumann in the Kristen Eagle, American-made biplane. Characteristic white with multicoloured stripes paint job. And there it is. Taking off on another of the runways into this wind coming from both the left and the south. Southwesterly wind. 20 knots in the box, so pilots are getting blown away from the judges but also to the right. They have to adapt their sequence and their positioning and their timing to account for that, as Barbara did, to keep their figures nicely visible by the judges, nicely in the centre, not too far back, not too far off to the right or left. And a lot of that is the planning on the ground beforehand. Get that right, it's a lot easier once you start flying, and then the actual execution of the plan. But if the plan is wrong, it can cause havoc. If you haven't thought about something, you turn the wrong way and you end up going downwind, you can end up out the end of the box and then judges won't score it. So it does make a difference. So Matt will be coming in to do his safety figures. Had a good week, Matt. Done some good flying. Let's see how he can tackle this final sequence. So Matt doing a vertical pull up, and I'm assuming that he's practicing where he's going to pull up for that first figure. Slightly past the centre of the box. So there is the first wing rock. So Matt is diving in. So Matt Schumann, sports level, third unknown. Let's fly. Figure 1. 45 up. Half roll. Hold the line. Pull it down. Draw a straight line. There we go. Pull it out and up into a goldfish. So up into a 45-degree line. Half roll. Pull it round. 3/4 of a loop. Back up to the 45 the other way. Keeping on axis. And setting yourself up. Capping off at the right height for the spin. So there he is, and it's a 1 1/4 spin. One would assume with the left foot coming towards us. Let's see what he does. Needs to kill the power. Just close that throttle once he feels he's in the right place, which is now. And then left foot goes in, round it comes, 1 1/4. Very good. Pull out, straight into a half loop up to pull it back. A roll off the top, so there's a half roll at the top of this, keeping on axis. Little bit off axis to the right. And then a 270 roller, a 270 turn, competition turn. Nice and steady, this is good. Keep it steady, maintain speed, height, roll, angle until the 270 is achieved, and then roll steady. That's very good. Then half roll and coming down. Half roll, pull down, and then straight into a Humpty Bump. So straight up vertical. Nice straight line on the way up. See the wind pushing him. Pull over the top. And a straight line down the other side. And then pull out. And then straight into a stall turn. Back up. And then a nice clean rotation at the top. Beautiful. Straight down. This is being very well flown by Matt. And then up to the 45-degree line. Half roll. Hold the line. And then pull it it smoothly around in a nice looping shape, dead straight. 4-point roll. 1, 2, 3, 4. That is a very good sequence there from Matt. So that was very nicely flown. Didn't really see any errors in that. I'm sure the judges will pick out one or two little things, but that was very good. Very good. Little bit off axis on that roll off the top, but only 10 degrees at most. Everything else was very good. Very good flying. Got the measure of that. So, taking off now. Adrian Reed. So our next competitor is Adrian Reed, father of the father-son duo, Adrian and Toby Reed. Seeing if he can best his son one last time. Don't think he's managed it yet, this contest, but now's your opportunity, Adrian. In their magnificent yellow Slingsby T67 Firefly. He will be getting himself set up, get up to height to come in for this sequence. Slightly overcooked the spin on the previous sequence, and that was the biggest difference between what he did and what his son Toby did. Toby very nicely did the spin. So Adrian coming in to do his safety maneuvers and warm-up figures. Which in this instance are actually 2 figures in the sequence, so this is a very good bit of practice. So, here comes Adrian. Wing rocks for this 3rd and final unknown sequence, the 4th sequence he'll have flown in this contest. Tipping in, final wing rock. So, Adrian Reed, Sports Unknown 3, let's fly. Figure 1, half roll on this 45 climbing line. Pulling down to a vertical line, gain some speed, pull out, up to the 45, half roll, maintain that line, a little bit soft on the line, pull round, looping section, back up to the 45, and back up to the height he needs to be at for the spin. Very nicely capped off, and he's going to drive it forward a little bit into wind before he attempts the spin. Be a 1 1/4 spin, presumably with left foot into wind. Takes a little while, and here we go. Left foot begins the auto rotation. Almost nailed it. Very slightly over. Now pulls back up to a half roll, quickety quick, don't wait. Slightly out the front of the box, waited a couple of beats too long, half roll at the top. Nicely done. And then we have the 270 roll to the left. There's the... Oh, that's very nicely done. Sharp, accurate finish on axis. Slightly shallow of axis. So he's then made a wing rock because the next figure comes down, and that would compromise his energy too much. So he is going to reposition himself to come back in to do figure 6 and at a higher height. This will have been a planned break, and at sports there is no penalty for taking a break. So Adrian will just get himself up to the height he wants to be at, and then come back in from the left and start again at figure 6. That was good flying up to then. It's ever so slightly overcooked the spin, but really only 5-10 degrees. You could see that went over, corrected it back. One of those things that's a tricky part of the sport. If you over rotate something by 5 or 10 degrees, it's probably better not to correct it, because you don't know how many of the judges will have seen that small a over rotation. And if you just fly it like you meant it and then smooth it out in the next maneuver, you never know. Whereas if you correct it, they'll all say, he over rotated, and mark you down. So that takes an awful lot of presence of mind to think like that. But that's one of the tricks. Obviously, if you over rotate by 20-30 degrees, you can't style it out. You have to either wing rock or correct it somehow. But if it's 5 to 10, you can usually style it out and just make it look like it happened. And if half the judges don't spot it, your marks will be much better. So that's one to remember. Yet another part of the complexity of flying this amazing sport. So hopefully Adrian's got himself up to a height that he's comfortable with, and we'll come back in and we'll wing rock to tell us he's ready, and then we'll recommence at figure 6. There's the wing rock. Second, third, here he comes. He's got himself another 1,000 feet or so, so he can do this down looping segment and continue. There's the half roll and half loop down and straight up into a Humpty Bump, vertical up, over the top, and then nice straight line on the way down, and pull out and go straight into a stall turn. Straight up, nice pivot at the top, little bit early on the pivot, but okay. Nice straight line on the way down, pulling out, and now should have enough juice and airspace to go up for 45 degrees. Half roll. Need a little bit more forward stick on those, Adrian. Just losing the 45 degree line on the top half of that. Comes out. Now, 4-point roll. Slightly off axis. 4-point roll, don't wait. 1, 2, 3, 4. Nicely flown. No dip, and there are the wing rocks. So, a good sequence there from Adrian. A little bit soft on the second half of those 45 degree lines after the roll. A little bit more forward stick required. Little bit of an over rotation on the spin. Those were the things I spotted. I'm sure there are some other things that the judges will have noticed, but other than that, it's a well positioned sequence. Didn't get blown off either back or to the right, so very good. Good job. And in the background there, whilst Adrian was flying, you may have heard the dulcet tones of an extra taking off. That was Katarina Volkova heading for Poland. So she'll have gone into cruise mode wings full of fuel. Bag in the small stowage area there is behind the pilot's head in a 330 SC. Small, takes basically one backpack in that space. Backpack and a small bag, and she will be heading south and can probably go straight across the channel in one hop, landing in Germany somewhere for a refuel. She then heads off to Poland to hand back her aircraft that she's borrowed. Thank you, Katerina, for flying with us this week. It's been great. So our next competitor that we're waiting for is the first of the two pits, who are competing in this sports level contest. This one will be flown by Tom Milsom, G-Mag. It's a Pits S1, red and blue colour scheme. Just waiting for it to take off. He may be waiting for Adrian Reed to land, as Adrian just brings it in on that grass runway into wind. And here's Tom now. Taking his S1S pits into the sky. Fixed pitch prop, 180 horsepower. Ailerons on all four wings. Hugely manoeuvrable aircraft. Still going strong after all these years. At the Pits 75th anniversary not that long ago. Amazing design of aircraft that they're still being built and flown today, and not as heritage aircraft or classic aircraft as active current competitors. You get a lot of aircraft for your money when you buy Pits. Very, very capable. Once they're in the air, very easy to fly. Do exactly what they're told. Very few vices, if any. Vices tend to be on the ground. So Tom coming in to do his safety checks and warm-up manoeuvres. No problem getting to altitude. Plenty of power in this little aircraft. So he's tipping in to do his warm-up figures, practicing where he's going to pull up for figure 1, which will be just here, I suspect, just slightly to the left of the judge's position to take account of the wind. And you can see as he's going straight up, the wind is blowing him to the right, even though to him in the plane it feels like he's just going straight up. So those two warm-up figures are actually in that order form figure 7 and 8, so it's a good practice. It's one of the few times that an unknown figure is allowed to be practiced, when they have chosen figures which are warm-up figures, official warm-up figures. So Tom making full use of that coincidence. So Tom coming around the corner, last look at the box from that vantage point, lining himself up on the axis he's chosen. And will signal with his first wing rock that he is ready to go. Second wing rock, and then he will dive in for speed, and then give us that third wing rock. But quite rightly, he is diving in. Third wing rock. So, Tom Milsom, sports sequence unknown 3. Let's fly. Figure 1, half roll. Long line before, a little bit soft after, a little bit more forward stick required. Tom pulling over, dead straight line, not that straight, a little bit of a jink in there, pulling up, 45, half roll, leaving it a little bit long before the half roll, and a little bit soft afterwards, as in not a bit shallow. Back up to the 45 and climbing up to the height he wants for the spin. Capping off, and is he going to wait a little bit, pushing into wind, slightly off axis, slightly coming towards, and then he'll probably have a little bit of trouble stopping it flying, and he wants to do a 1 1/4. He's now probably a little bit too far left. 1 1/4, yes, 1 1/4 spin, line not that vertical, pulling out, half roll, pull it up, half loop rather, with a half roll at the top, a roll off the top, half roll, and then pause, and then a 270 roller to the left. So he will be quite far left for this, but the wind has already pushed him back into the box, so it's actually fine. Very good. The wind is obviously quite strong up there. Back on axis, and now push it down for this next figure. Sorry, half loop down. And the Humpty Bump that he practiced in his warm-up figures. That's a nice straight line. Pull it over the top. Nice straight line down the other side, please. Very good. And then stall turn. Pull it up. Straight line. positive. Clean rotation at the top. Straight line. That's good. Much better straight lines there. Pulling it out, up. See if you can get this line better. Half roll, don't wait too long, that's better. Hold the position, that's better. Still running out of juice and it's sagging a little bit. Need to roll earlier. Pulling around, and now a 4-point roll, crisp 4-point roll. 1, 2, 3, 4. Nicely flown. A little bit of smoke out the back, a little bit of oil just found its way into the exhaust and makes that smoke trail. And that brings to an end Tom Milson's National Championship run of 4 sequences, 1 known and 3 unknowns. That was pretty well flown. Positioning was good. A few wobbles and wibbles here and there. Nice 4-point roll. 45 lines, just need to roll earlier so you've got power to keep it on the same line after the roll. And then nice straight lines on the Humpty and the stall turn, figure 7 and 8, but didn't manage that on figure 1. Came down that knife edge and it wasn't as straight as it should have been. But overall, no major problems that I saw. Good effort. So, taking off now, Paul O'Connor in his Laser 200. Paul's come over from Ireland to fly with us this week. More than welcome. Started flying aerobatics relatively recently and is learning fast and has got an excellent aircraft to do it in. That will take him all the way up to advanced should he want it to. One of our advanced team competitors flies an Edge 360 with 200 horsepower and flies it very well indeed. So the performance is all there in the aircraft. It's the pilot that needs to take it there. He's done some good flying this week. See if he can continue that good flying into this third and final unknown 4th sequence of the contest. Just to reiterate, Paul has not flown this sequence before. He was handed it yesterday. He's been learning it on the ground. He's got a plan where he wants to fly, what height, which way he should turn in the 270 turn, how to do what height he wants to do the spin and so forth. And now he has to put that plan into practice and cope with any deviations that occur along the way. The Laser 200 was the first proper single winged aerobatic aircraft. They were kit built back in, I think, the 70s, and were the basis for Walter Extra's first aircraft, the Extra 200, which was very similar to a Laser. He hand built himself for aerobatic competition and then turned that into a business, and now is the de facto aerobatic aircraft of choice. The Extra 300 series, both 2-seat, single seats, and now the SX and the NG. From their factory in Germany, Dinslaken. Each of them hand built. and made to exacting EASA standards. Fully certified to plus and minus 10G and extra. These home-built ones are not certified to. They're not certified. They are permit aircraft, which means that they are run by the LAA, and they are given different amounts of G tolerance based on their construction and the design that's chosen. So I'm not sure of the exact details of this one, but Paul will be flying it well within its remit. Still very capable aircraft. I think I'm right in saying that the Laser was the chosen aircraft of the famous Leo Laudenschlager, who was the famous airshow pilot in the US, who pioneered the new era of aerobatics post-pits. Amazing displays if you've ever seen one of those. So here comes Paul, wing rocking in. Paul O'Connor, sports, third unknown, let's fly. Figure 1, up 45, half roll. Hold that line, nicely done. Nice, clean, straight line down. Pulling out and up into the goldfish. 45 up, half roll, hold the line. Good, holding the line and then pulling round. Little bit pinched, pulling round, but the bottom is nice shape, up to the 45 and now climbing to the height at which he wants to make the spin. This aircraft slowing down almost to a standstill, putting it off, and now straight into the spin. 1 1/4 facing us, very good, and then pulling out and doing a roll off the top, so it comes straight towards a half loop up with a half roll at the top. Very nicely positioned, slightly off axis but only a few degrees. Half roll, and now the 270 turn to the left. Roll the wings and pull round in 270. He's going to make this big to give himself some space for the next maneuver. Try not to climb or descend. Keep the wings at the constant angle. Pull it round tighter now. Very nicely done. And level off on axis. There it is. And now half roll and a half loop down. Oh, a little bit of a line after the half roll. That will be a mark down. You need to go straight into the half roll. Wait a couple of beats to get into wind. Good job. And then going into the Humpty Bump, straight up. Nice clean line on the way up. Radius at the top. And a nice clean line on the way down. Very good. And then pulling out into the stall turn. Pull up. Clean line on the way up. Very good. Clean pivot at the top. As the aircraft seemingly stops, pivot. Very good. And then a clean line on the way down. And then pulls out. And then straight up into the 45. Don't delay. Half roll. Hold the line. Very good. And then a little bit pinched. You need to just smooth out that start of the rotation sequence. And then a 4-point roll. 1, 2, 3, 4. Very good. Nicely flown sequence there. And actually very good positioning. It was more, the figures were more central. So actually that worked extremely well. The plan he had was what happened. And that was nicely flown. Might get a slight mark down for the split S, the half loop down. A little bit of a pause after the half roll before the half loop began. It's got to be immediate. And a little bit pitched on those goldfish. Half roll, hold the line, and you don't break the line too violently. It needs to be a smooth transition into the looping segment, but really minor points on a very good sequence. Good job, Paul. So, here's our next competitor. This is Alex Quessy in his Pitts S1. Another S1S. Fixed pitch. Blue and white pits. So Alex has also been doing some good flying this week. Shares this aircraft with Thierry. He's flying at intermediate. So Alex is positioning himself in to do his safety and warm-up figures against this very nice blue and white puffy cloud sky. Very high clouds today, and quite a strong wind. Strongest wind we've had all week. It's 20 knots or so in the box. And pilots so far have been making good plans to counteract that wind and keep their figures in front of the judges and not get blown out of the way, which can happen. But it takes some planning on the ground and some strong awareness in the air. couple of safety maneuvers. Performed quite high up. He's obviously choosing to stay high so that he doesn't have to then climb back up for the start of the sequence. It's a small plane, so generally best to stay in the front half of the box only, as close as you can to the judges, and actually not too high, just trying to keep the distance between the judges and yourself as small as possible, because it's a small plane, so that they can see what you're doing and score it accurately. If you're at the back of the box and very high, you're not likely to see good scores. So this is Alex Gressy heading on in. He'll let us know he's ready to go with wing rocks when the time comes, but he's just lining himself up with his chosen axis, fairly central. One wing rock. Two wing rocks. So, three wing rocks. Alex Gressy, Sports Unknown 3. Figure 1, let's fly. Half roll. Pulling it over the top, straight line on the way down. Could be a little bit longer. Pulling out up to the 45 for this goldfish. Don't wait too long. Half roll and hold the line. And smoothly round into that looping section. Back up to the 45, staying on axis. Very good. And there he is, the 45 line, now going up to the height he wants the spin to be at, so capping off at that height, and then smoothly off with the power at the right moment, pushing it into wind. Power is off, waiting to do that. Left foot, in goes the spin, 1 1/4, so facing us. Very good. Not much of a straight line there, and pull up for getting very close, but that's not a problem. Half roll off the top, and then pause, straight line, and then doing a 270 to the left. There's the 270. Hold that angle of bank as you pull round without gaining or losing height. And when you're on heading, roll back wings level. Roll back wings level, a little bit over. Half roll and pull down. And then straight into the Humpty Bump. Pulling up. Nice straight line on the way up. Very good. Pull tight now. Straight line on the way down. Possibly could have been longer. And now the stall turn. Straight line on the way up. Clean pivot at the top. A little bit early. And then straight line. That's good. That's a better straight line. And now straight up, 45 with a half roll. Hold that line. Now smoothly round. That's well flown. Smoothly round to the level, and a nice crisp 4-point roll. 1, 2, 3, 4. Well flown. So that is Alex. Good sequence. So the devil's going to be in the detail with these sequences between these pilots. They've all flown it pretty well. They've all got the measure of it. The positioning's been pretty good for all of them. It's going to be in those little stutters and line lengths and how good that spin was. All those things, how vertical the lines were, that's what's going to count. So that brings to a close Alex. Alex is flying for this contest. I think he'll be quite pleased with that. It was a good flight, clean, good positioning. But it will be how the scores play out once they're all in. Scoring team here we have, who put the scores in. And check and double check with the chief judge that what the judges have written down is accurately represented in the scoring system. And then once that's all in, statistical analysis will do its job and tell us who has managed to reach the top per category. We'll be crowning national champions at sports, intermediate, advanced and unlimited. And at advanced and unlimited we will also be awarding the open champion, a separate trophy open to all nationalities who have competed. This year we have quite a few, but they're all unlimited. No international competitors at advanced, which we've had in the past. So whoever wins the national championship at advanced will also win the open. Double whammy, all to play for. So once Alex has brought his pits safely to the landing, taxied off to the pumps, we will be having our next competitor take off, which will be Rich Gale in his red and white one design. And here he is, little diminutive plane, even smaller than a Pitts. But highly capable. Kit built and designed by a chap called Dan Rinn in the States. Very, very capable little aircraft. Only 160 horsepower, I think. Might be 180. I think some of them have 180. Very fast rolling, small, short wings, fast rolling. Very capable. Capable all the way up to unlimited. The only issue would be vertical penetration, having to reposition for those tough unlimited sequences and not having the power to do flicks and then continue on up a straight line. But for what Rich is doing in it, absolutely perfect at sports, intermediate and advanced. Very, very capable planes. And I think Rich is enjoying getting to grips with it, tackling these sequences along with his 3 other co-owners based at Whitewaltham near Maidenhead. So Rich is bringing it in to do his safety checks. So it's getting pretty windy out here. You can probably hear the things flapping in the background. But I think it's a fairly steady 20 knots up in the box. All the pilots have to take good notice of it and plan their flights accordingly. Rich will have done that, planning this unknown on the ground. This is the first time he gets to fly it. So he's coming in to do his warm-up figures and practicing where he's going to put that first figure, which is about here. Yeah, pretty much centre box, but a little bit closer to the judges than centre box. Nice straight line there. As he just warms himself up, warms up the G muscles. Not too much G in this sequence, but you need to be warm, you need to be comfortable in your seat, in your harness, before you start a sequence. You've got to be confident that the plane is doing everything that it's supposed to do, and that so are you. You're not feeling weird or not up to it. It's absolutely one of those cardinal rules in aerobatics that if you're not feeling it, don't do it. If you're feeling slightly off, don't do aerobatics. Much better to be on the ground wishing you were up there than up there wishing you were down here. So that's another reason we have the safety figures, not just to check the plane, check the pilot's feeling all right. When you actually pull G, turn it upside down and fly dead up and dead down, are you feeling it? A pilot yesterday who did the first two figures of his sequence, they didn't go according to plan. He discovered he was absolutely not feeling it, and so quite rightly he headed home and stopped flying the sequence and put the aircraft on the ground and moaned about it in the bar. Much the best thing to do, very sensible. Here is Rich Gale, who is not going to have a problem. Are you, Rich? You're going to have a great time. Rich Gale, Sports Unknown Sequence 3, let's fly. Figure 1, 45 up, half roll. Hold the line. Straight down. A little bit speedy on the way up. Back up to the 45. Half roll, hold the line. Smoothly out into the looping section. Very good. Check where you are as you come round in relation to the ground. Back up to the 45. Hold that line and push off at the height you want the spin to start at. Check your altimeter. And then you push off and then choose your point. There goes the power, and this is a 1 1/4 left foot. 1 turn and 1/4. Very good. Straight line, and then pulling out towards us, and then pulling up into a half loop with a half roll at the top. Half roll, very good. And then doing a 270-degree competition turn to the left. Hold the wings in that bank angle and carve round 270 degrees to go back left to right. Keep the bank angle constant. He's making this nice and big to gain some box. Now he needs to pull tighter. Wings level, and then straight into the next figure. Half. Don't wait, you're going downwind. Don't wait, Rich. Half loop down. That's good. And back into Humpty Bump, straight up. Nice straight line upwards. Over the top. Nice straight line down. That's good. And again for the stall turn. Pulling up. Nice straight line up to the stall turn. Clean pivot at the top. Plenty of performance in this one design. There it is. Clean line on the way down. Up to the 45. Half roll. And then hold the line. And then smoothly round, looping section. Checking where you are with your ground references. And then a 4-point roll. 1, 2, 3, 4. That was very nicely flown by Rich Gale. That was a good sequence. Again, another pilot who's really got the measure of this sequence, this unknown. Doesn't seem to be giving them the problems that the previous unknown did. Making a very good job of that. Really the only thing I saw in that was the very top of figure 1, pulled off the top with quite a lot of speed, so the top of that knife edge was quite rounded. Not many marks off, but that's a very picky thing, as opposed to leaving it until you're quite slow and then you can make a sharp corner at the top there. But as I said, picky pickies. That was a very nicely flown sequence. So, one competitor to go. Toby Reed, the younger of the two Reeds, once again in the T67 Firefly. Just waiting for him to get airborne. And that will be the final sequence of this sports unknown category, and the final sequence of the Arresti competition, the precision flying competition, which will leave us in good stead to do the freestyle. Toby getting up to height in the Firefly, thinking through his sequence. He'll have seen that the other pilots have done a good job. So to score well, he'll have to fly this immaculately, but he can do it well within the capabilities of the aircraft. With a brake to reposition for height. And just needs to be calm. He's planned the flight, now he needs to fly the plan. Coming in for his warm-up figures. Very nicely flown figures. So those two figures are both in the sequence, so if he can do those, fly them like that, he will be doing well. And there's his half rolls, checking his straps. Very nice. So as we wait for Toby to get himself up to altitude and positioning for his final sequence, we can reflect on a week of excellent flying. We've had fantastic weather this week, really good flying weather. The wind today has not been too troublesome, but it's been the highest that we've had all week. We've had 25 pilots from pretty much all corners of the world. We've had obviously the bulk of which coming from the British Isles, but we've had an Irish pilot, we've had 2 unlimited pilots from Luxembourg, we've had a US pilot flying a Polish plane, and a South African. And that is the nature of the Open. We have the best of the British against all comers. So we're delighted to welcome those pilots, and the more the merrier. So the invitation is there for all pilots from across the world. If you want to come and fly in the British Open, you're more than welcome. Beautiful airfield, on-site hotel, great box, good judges, live stream. Lots of fun. Also want to say a thank you to our sponsors, Alerion Collective, Ascent Flight Training at Cranwell, the Brand Gym, and a couple of other very important sponsors who don't want to be mentioned, but they know who they are, who've helped us put on this week of top-class flying. And of course all the officials who have helped organise, set up, video, judge, flight directors, scoring, the list goes on, who've given up their time to make this competition what it is. And all the team at Sywell, Tower, fire crew, team at the hotel and the airfield management who've helped us make this a great contest. And here comes Toby, wing rocks, final sequence. Toby Reed, Sports Unknown 3, Let's Fly, figure 1, 45 up, half roll, nice, hold the line, pull it down sharply to a vertical, very good, hold the vertical line, pull out, up into the goldfish, 45 up, half roll, hold the line, nicely done, and smoothly round into the looping section, 3/4 of a loop, back up onto the 45, and then cap off at the height you want to do the spin at. Capped off, then smoothly off with the power, just giving himself a little bit of space into wind before he does the spin, and then the power comes off, and when the wing stalls, those long wings don't want to give up. When the wing stalls, the left foot goes in, and there comes the auto rotation, 1 1/4, nicely done. Straight line down, very good. Pulling out. Oh, and he's done a wing rock. Now, why has he done a wing rock there? I would suggest that he has planned that, or he felt he was too far to the right or too close. From my perspective, he could have carried on. He had some speed, could have carried on, pulled over the top, done the 270 roller and done the wing rock there, but maybe that was his plan, to do the wing rock there. So he'll reposition himself and then come back in to do figure 4. Is he at the right height yet? Is he going to wing rock? Yes. So he's just brought it in. Probably felt he's a little bit too far to the left. So he's now tipping in. Very good positioning for this half loop up. So figure 4, half loop up, half roll at the top, and then 270 roll to the left. So he's given himself much more space to do this 270 roller, give it some size. Yes, that would have been too big to fit in where he was previously. Maintain the bank angle and come round onto axis, and then he does the wing rocks. Yes, so this is the planned wing rock, because that is just before does the half loop down, so he needs to make sure he's got basically another 1,000 feet before he does that. Otherwise he would run out of energy and height before he got to the end of the sequence. So he's gonna go round and climb and then start again at figure 6, which is the split S, the half loop, half roll, half loop down. So here are the wing rocks. So no need for diving. He will start again at figure 6. He's brought it much closer in. There's the half roll, half loop down. Nicely positioned near the front of the box, and he'll go up for the Humpty Bump. Don't wait too long. There's the Humpty Bump. Nice straight line up. Coming over the top, straight line down. Very good. Very good. And then pulling out straight up into the stall turn. Straight up and then pivot at the top. Just at the point. A little bit early, but frankly at a firefly that's probably when you need to do it. Straight line down. Good straight line down. And then back up to the 45. Half roll. And then maintain that line. That's it. And then smoothly round. Checking you're on axis. Smoothly round, and then a 4-point roll. 1, 2, 3, 4. Very good flying. Very good flying indeed. Really having to use the rudder there. Keep the nose up whilst doing that 4-point roll. And that is the final flight of the Aresti competition. The precision flying is now over. All that remains is the freestyle, which is currently planned for a little over an hour, but I suspect, given that we are now at 1:20, that it might be nearer 3 o'clock. But that will become apparent. It'll be at some stage this afternoon. There are 4 pilots flying the freestyle, and we are very much looking forward to that. So thank you, and we will start again this afternoon.